Well, we've now, the three of us here, I'm Olly Johnson, that over there is Seb Gran, and this is Peter Shipway.
Hi.
Hi. We've now all three of us seen The Amazing Spider-Man.
I can say, maybe it's not the right title. Perhaps it should be called The Alright Spider-Man. Because it was just alright. Just to summarise, I must admit I liked it. Did you like it, Pete?
Yeah, I liked it.
Did you like it, Ollie?
I sat through it with no complaints. I wouldn't say I liked it. I can't bring myself to like it because it's supposed to replace the original one, and it's just nowhere near as good.
Oh, a bit of a schism there. Did I say it right? Schism?
Schism.
Schism.
Oh.
I agree, it's not as good as the first one.
So do I. We've got a bit of consensus here. We all prefer the original Spider-Man.
It was good in its own way, but it wasn't as good as the first one.
It was good in a different way. It had different qualities.
It was good in a not at all good kind of way.
Ollie, that was unfair. Okay, explain yourself. You've got the mic.
Alright. Well, the villain in it, the Lizard, I started out liking him. He injects himself with... Oh, spoiler alert, by the way.
Just after you say he injects himself with... Now they know he injects himself with something.
Spoiler alert, by the way.
We can edit that.
Yeah. Spoiler alert. He injects himself... What the storyline is, Peter Parker's parents have disappeared. Yeah. Apparently, fans of the comic book are now groaning, going, oh god, they're not doing that one. I don't know the comic books very well, but...
I'm a Spider-Man-like fan. I've never really seen comic books, only one or two episodes of the TV series and the movies, which I liked.
Yeah. But apparently that's anything involving Peter Parker's parents is not a very popular story. And something to do with Peter Piper...
Peter Piper!
That was the joke I was attempting to make, Peter. Never mind. I knocked it off. But basically, Peter Parker's parents picked a grain of pickle peppers, picked a peck of pickle peppers, and then disappeared. Right, let me start that again. Basically, Peter Parker's parents picked a pack of pickle peppers and then disappeared, never to be seen again.
Penguin.
Yeah. And he's living with Uncle Ben and Aunt May, as he should be.
Yes, the man who invented Uncle Ben's boil him a bag of rice.
Yeah. And...
he was black in the original.
Basically, his father was working with Dr. Kirk Connors on...
I thought you were going to say Dr. Kurt Cobain for a minute.
What was it they called it? Cross-species genetic research. They wanted to give humans the abilities of animals. And Dr. Kirk Connors was an expert on reptiles. He'd lost an arm previously, he wanted to regrow it. Well, Dr. Kirk Connors, as anyone who knows Spider-Man's mythos well will know, is the Lizard.
Lean in.
So Dr. Kirk Connors injects himself with this serum or what have you that temporarily regrows his arm but turns him into the Lizard. Then, out of nowhere, he suddenly falls in love with the idea of being a lizard and basically becomes, I don't know, reptile Hitler and wants to turn everybody into lizards.
I must admit, it was a bit out of the blue. I thought it was a bit odd.
Yeah.
Until then, I quite liked him as a character. I thought he was very well developed, considerably more so than the other Spider-Man villains in the originals, until that moment.
I mean, he wasn't what I was expecting.
What were you expecting, Pete?
Well, something more like he was in the originals.
What, you mean the cartoons?
I mean the movies.
Oh, right, yeah.
Kurt Connors from the other movies.
There are rumours that loads of the film was just cut out minutes, well, at the last minute. And that would explain a lot, because there's an Oscorp agent who's constantly harassing Kurt Connors that just disappears halfway through and is never seen again.
I must admit, Ollie, every time you say Kurt Connors, I keep thinking you're going to say Kurt Cobain.
A lot of the film was quite similar to the first one.
No, it wasn't. The first one was good. No,
it's not bad, though. I don't think it's bad.
I liked it.
The first one had Randy Savage in it. What does this one have?
Stanley
And
makes a cameo as per usual, which I'm happy with.
Yeah. But Peter Parker wasn't Peter Parker in that. He was Edward Bloody Cullen.
I don't know who that is or what that is. Explain.
Well, then you're even more out of touch than I am. He's the guy from Twilight.
Oh yeah, what, the guy with the hair?
Yeah, the guy with the hair.
And the red eyes.
I didn't like his hair.
Yeah. I mean,
I thought it was alright if it weren't Spider-Man.
He wasn't geeky Peter Parker anymore, though.
He was in a sort of retarded way.
He was already standing up to bullies before he became Spider-Man, so there's no change between, before and after.
Except, he could beat them after, but... What I thought was a bit odd is how his character went from one extreme to the other during the first half of the movie. He started off as being practically having no social skills and being, retarded. That's the only way to describe him, I'm afraid. And then he went to being really overconfident and slightly odd.
That's what he was like in the comics, though.
Yes, but it was just a bit too much of a transition for me. There was no in-between until halfway through. I thought he was much better in the second half of the movie as Spider-Man than in the first half.
And I'm being horrible to this movie. I'm probably a bit judgmentally biased against it, because the fact that this movie exists now means that Marvel Studios don't get the rights to the character Spider-Man back, which means they can't make their own Spider-Man movie, which probably would have been much better anyway, and now they can't put Spider-Man in the Avengers.
Which would have been convenient, since in the Avengers movie, spoiler alert, there is a bit where they go to New York. In fact, it's the finale where they fight off the evil hordes of people.
Well,
things.
The alien army.
What are they called?
I can't remember. I only...
Tesseract or something like that?
That was the stuff.
That was the stuff. The stuff.
I
love how scientific Peter is with his description.
The Tesseract is the glowing blue cube thing.
You mean the one at the beginning of Who Wants to Be a Millionaire?
The one at the beginning of Captain America.
Oh, yeah.
Which I've never seen.
I haven't seen it all
You've
the way
never
through.
seen Captain America?
I ought to watch it.
Yeah.
We could do a review of that, actually.
I saw that at the cinema like 3 times.
3? Why didn't you invite me once?
I did. You came with me once.
I don't remember that.
I do.
Well, did we watch the whole movie?
Yeah.
I don't remember watching it with you. That is so weird.
I remember watching it with you.
Are you sure it wasn't just someone who looked like me?
How many people do I know that look like you?
That's a good point. No one looks like me. I'm a bit... I'm sad.
But anyway, getting back to the topic at hand, The Amazing Spider-Man.
Well, which I think should be called The Alright Spider-Man. It is a pretentious title.
The Passable Spider-Man.
Yeah. I don't know, it's like the Alright Thor and the Alright Hulk.
Yeah, the somewhat impressive Hulk.
Yes, and the slightly entertaining Thor.
I didn't like the Fantastic Four movies either.
It's not fantastic. It's alright.
Yeah. But, if you don't know about Spider-Man and you don't take it seriously, it's largely an inoffensive film. It'll keep you entertained for 2 hours.
I liked it. I didn't like it as much as the originals.
I did like that bit in the sewers where he builds a web. I thought that was quite clever.
Yeah.
Yeah. And some of the sarcastic quips were quite funny.
I did enjoy that, although I found it a bit odd that it was so...
I liked the new costume. I mean, I liked that it was more colourful and...
No, see, I didn't really like the new costume. I preferred the old one.
I didn't even notice a difference. I wasn't thinking about it.
Yeah, but I didn't like... Now, in the original, his Uncle Ben gets shot by a carjacker that he refused to stop because the man who stole money from cheated him out of prize money that he'd rightfully won after out-wrestling Macho Man Randy Savage. In this version, spoiler alert, he's 2 cents short of money for a milkshake, and the clerk gets robbed, and he doesn't help him, and Uncle Ben gets shot.
Why doesn't he just go and buy a cheaper milkshake? Or go elsewhere for a milkshake? Or buy something different from a milkshake?
Yeah. And there's no "with great power comes great responsibility" anymore. And
I thought that line would be in it.
Should have been.
It should have been.
In the voicemail message.
Yeah.
Yeah. And,
one nice touch, actually, is the bit with the eggs, where he remembers the eggs after the battle.
Oh, yeah, I like
that. Because it sort of shows him, taking responsibility a bit.
Yeah. But, what was I going to say? Uncle Ben got shot basically over a milkshake. That I didn't,
Wait, how did he get shot over a milkshake?
Well,
he wasn't the person buying the milkshake.
He was just walking.
Well, no,
he was walking in the street.
That robber was allowed to go and consequently shoot Uncle Ben because Peter Parker couldn't get his milkshake.
But he got the milkshake.
I like the fact that we saw him being shot this time.
Yeah, but
you sadist, Pete.
Taking responsibility and becoming a crime fighter because he felt guilty about letting his uncle die, he's now gone to avenge he's puts on the Spider-Man costume to avenge his uncle, and it basically smacks a bit of, it's trying to be really dark and gritty, so I distinctly got the feeling of, if Batman Begins made money, so will this, from the film.
I didn't really notice that at the time. I thought that the silliness counterbalanced it.
They just got rid of that. Because at first he was looking for the guy who shot his uncle.
Yeah,
and then
another plot line that sort of disappears halfway through the film.
But it might carry on to the second one, like it did in, the original Spider-Man series.
So does that give this one an excuse for not standing up on its own?
No, it just gives it an excuse to make a sequel.
Well, yeah, but what you've got to remember
Frankly,
here
I want to see it. I know it won't be as good as Spider-Man 2, but I want to see a sequel and a third one.
Yeah, I'm hoping
for closure.
They will make a sequel, and I'm hoping it's better than this one.
They're already making a sequel.
It's been announced anyway.
Yeah. And,
I thought the casting was actually alright. It didn't bother me at all.
Well, Aunt May looked wrong,
other than Aunt May.
I think she was too young.
Yeah, and I didn't even know until Pete told me, but apparently she was the mother from Mrs. Doubtfire.
Sally Field.
Yeah.
But, the thing I didn't like about the movie is assumes too much that you're going to see a sequel if it's going to explain these plot lines at all.
Let's face it, we're going to go and see it, aren't we?
Well, yeah, we are, but we don't want them to take that for granted. Let's look at, what's a good example of films here? Star Wars. Each one of them easily stands up on its own without you having to have seen any of the others to understand what's going on. But they do follow a storyline. But this one doesn't do that, I don't think.
You may have a point, but I liked it more than you did. There we go.
So did I.
But I just really liked the original Spider-Man. So
I think that's something we can all agree on.
Yeah.
And I think that
it took a bit of time. It took some time to get used to it.
Yeah. And one thing I do love about the original Spider-Man, it was the first superhero movie to go warts and all with the campy costumes and the cheesiness and everything. Because if you remember before that, there was only X-Men, and they didn't wear X-Men outfits, they wore black leotard thingies.
But, there's the Batman movies, the silly Batman movies. And the 60s one. That was sort of silly.
That was a parody.
Well, yeah, but that was in the 60s when that sort of stuff was mainstream.
And that was meant to be a parody anyway.
Yeah. I guess the thing here is, for me, there is no replacing the original Spider-Man movie.
Definitely.
Yes, I agree with both of you, and on that note of consensus, I think that's the end of our review. Bye.
Bye.
Pete, you start.
Da